All right, Ontario cracked its economic door a little today, allowing residents to start the long climb up Mount Normal. Golf courses and private parks will open this weekend, and Premier Doug Ford has just announced that phase 1 of the reopening will happen on Tuesday. That will include all sorts of other things that will open: businesses, construction, certain kinds of retail. That will all open. But how fast is too fast? Let's find out. Joining us now is Ontario's Finance Minister, Rod Phillips. Good to see you, and I hope you and the family are well, Minister. How did the province come up with who can reopen when in phase 1?
Well, you know, Evan, about 3 weeks ago, we laid out this framework, and we said we were going to be guided by 4 really key health guidelines. We wanted to make sure that we had the testing that we need. We wanted to make sure that the capacity was in our system and that we were able to do contact tracing. And what the chief medical officer said is they wanted to make sure that they could see that the path on the cases was down. And so we have seen that over the last couple of weeks. And so today we were able to take the step of announcing that on Tuesday we'll be entering that first stage. And the way that we made the decisions about businesses was, of course, working with the chief medical officer, but looking for the lower risk businesses. Some of the ones, as you mentioned, are seasonal and outdoors. Others are areas where, quite frankly, we've had experience through the essential service part of this, where we've had retail open, so we were able to see how that other retail could operate, for example, with limitations on the number of people in the stores and otherwise. So very planned program that's going to have a very gradual opening, but we're glad to say that we are now getting to that first stage and can start to see that climb, as you said, beginning to climb back up Mount Normal.
Minister, let's talk about that. Do you have an idea of the numbers? What percentage of businesses by Tuesday in Ontario, the small, medium, large businesses, will be up and running at what capacity by Tuesday?
Well, you know, it's a very good question. We've created the opportunity for tens of thousands of businesses in the retail sector, again, those with an outside door, those who are doing curbside pickup now to move with limitations on people being able to move indoors, as well some other business opportunities, construction, which you mentioned off the top. But because we've said they can doesn't mean they will. One of the things the Premier was very clear on is we've been putting out the workplace guidelines, again, really for about 3 weeks. There are now 95 of them for specific businesses. Businesses should open when they're ready to open, and that's the clear message we're sending. So we don't know. I can tell you the experience looking at other jurisdictions is that it is slower than some people think. In other jurisdictions as well, in Europe, in Asia, also customers have returned slower than some people thought. So we're opening this gradually, safely, and of course when those businesses also feel that they can do it from a business point of view and safely for their customers and employees.
The Premier today talked about a potential for a flare-up. People have often talked about the second wave, and I appreciate what a knife's edge this is. There's an economic destruction going on. By the same time, there's a lot of people dying, so it's not an easy decision, and I totally appreciate that. But if there is a second flare-up, and it could happen, is the province prepared to reverse course and say, you know what? I know you opened on Tuesday. We got to close you down again until the benchmarks are hit again. Could you do that?
We could, but I can tell you, Evan, it's not that if it happens. We know that COVID is still among us in our society. So as long as the virus is there, there are going to be cases of community spread. That's why we need to make sure we have the hospital capacity to take care of people, why we have the contact tracing and the testing. So we do know that there will be some instance of this. That has happened in every jurisdiction that has opened up. The question is, are we going to be able to handle that? And that's why we wanted to wait. Again, we set out the framework 3 weeks ago, but we waited till today to announce that next week we're going to be in a position to move ahead, not with the whole economy, but with that first stage of those lower risk businesses where we have experience and where they think we can operate them safely, because then we'll be able to manage those flare-ups. But absolutely, and to be clear, this stage will last at least 3 weeks. The chief medical officer will be looking at the results of that to see that we're going in the right direction before we make the decision to move to a next stage and more business openings. So, this has to be gradual because safety has to come first.
You're letting businesses take steps towards reopening. I think there's probably a lot of relief and trepidation. But here's what the Premier said when he was asked about seeing family. Check this out.
Why can I go shopping, but I can't see my family?
You know something, I get it. I really do. I understand the pain that you're going through. And, you know, for months, and I know I had one of my daughters over or two, and I got in trouble for that, but for months we never saw them. And I understand the pain you're going through, your family's going through, and other families are going through. And I just ask, just hang in there, just a little bit longer, and we'll get through it.
Minister, why are businesses allowed to open and people are not allowed to, as other provinces have done, double bubble? You know, pick a family or pick some family and essentially bring them into your isolation bubble.
Yeah, so today was about the economic reopening, also as well about some of the health system reopening, bringing back surgeries, scheduled surgeries and other things. But as the Chief Medical Officer said today, the Minister of Health also said, we're also looking very closely, again, at the most recent data when it comes to the size of groups, which is currently still 5 in Ontario. We're also going to have an announcement coming next week about education, about childcare. So there are a number of facets to this problem, Evan, and we're looking at it all as one plan. But today we were talking about the economy, about those services, and about the good news about being able to move to stage 1 safely.
Hey, Minister, real quick, we've heard now that the federal debt could top $1 trillion within the fiscal year. We've got the deficit well over $252 billion. Their cities are demanding support for things like transit revenue because they've lost revenue. Can you give us a sense of what Ontario's deficit will be, and if you will provide cities, municipalities more help for things like transit?
So uniquely, and as you know, uniquely of governments in Canada, we brought out a fiscal plan that reflected the beginning stages of this crisis. Went from track to balance to a plus $20 billion deficit, and the economy has worsened since then. So I'll be out, as I am every quarter. I guess the next time will be in August to give an update both about the economy and about the finances. We'll keep people informed on that. But obviously it's difficult from a fiscal perspective, but that's because we're making the investments we need to, and I think that's what the federal government is doing as well. You know, and your second question, Evan, I'm sorry,
on transit, just you talk to mayors, they're worried about going broke because they don't have their main source of revenue is property taxes. They've got transit organizations that are desperate. Will they get provincial support, or will you ask the federal government to step up?
You know, so the Premier has already raised this with the federal government, with the Prime Minister. Obviously, mayors have raised it with us. I spoke to the large urban mayors and to the Association of Municipalities last week. So we're in those conversations, and we're in this together, and we will find a way through it. I think the partnership between the 3 levels of government has been one of the things that I think Canadians have appreciated through this. They should expect their leaders to work together, and you know, we will work with municipalities. They're an important and vital partner in delivering the services we need. We, of course, are pleased to know that the federal government will be working with us on that. And as I said, we'll get through this together.
All right, Minister Phillips, always good to have you on the program. A really important day in Ontario. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Evan.